Well, what is it? Welcome back, everyone. I'm here once again for another episode of I Played a Thing, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. And with me today is partner Salada Velka, wearing the Judgment set. Also, we don't really have any significant preliminaries to take care of this time, nothing to trade, nothing to buy. However, off-screen, just in the interest of giving our intrepid veghead something to play with, I spent some of my souls and some of my petrified dragon bone on a slightly different weapon. Same moveset, but it'll look a little different and function a little different, so just a little bit of variation for us. I upped the smelter sword to +5, which is its maximum. And if you look at the stats on it there, you can see we lose 50 points of physical damage, but we gain 170 in fire. Now, that might seem to be an overall gain, but probably not really, because the way defense works in Souls games is that every elemental defense is applied separately, so this weapon will be hitting the enemy's physical defense and being reduced by that, and the damage will also be reduced simultaneously by their fire defense. But at least we'll look cool and glowy. And again, the moveset is totally identical to our old Stand by the Great Sword, the big difference being the fire defense, the cool glowing, and the fact that its hard attacks cause a big old fire blast. Both one-handed and two-handed. You can see what that does to the weapon durability, though. Just like most weapons with a special attack, the Smelter Sword's durability is significantly reduced every time you employ said special attack, so if you go fire blasting everything in sight, it'll run out pretty damn quickly. If you just use it normally, though, it has exactly the same durability as a regular greatsword. Now then, the last episode, what we did was journey through the Dragon Shrine and acquire the Ashen Mist Heart, which allows us to venture into the memories of the Withered, and we tested that out on the Petrified Dragon down in the Duke's Dear Freya's boss arena, and were able to pick up an Ancient Dragon Soul, so we know the thing works. Now, as we've been instructed by Queen Nishandra and hinted at by Sweet Shalquar, we're going to be journeying into the Forest of Fallen Giants to check out some of the Giants' memories. Now, there are 3 of those. Only 2 of them are actually necessary in any way. But we're going to go into all 3 of them because we need Giant Souls, and that's how you get most of them. So first we'll do the first 2 optional ones, and then we will proceed into the one that we actually have to. Now, let's see here. The first giant tree corpse thing that we have to visit is going to be near where we met mild-mannered Pate for the first time. And actually, I don't know why I just came down the ladder here, because it occurs to me the quickest way to get there is probably going to be through the wall we blew up earlier. Beg your pardon, folks, it has been a while since I've been back to the Forest of Fallen Giants. Hey, firebomb guy, I bet I can one-shot you now. Yeah, this seems to be the right course of action. And I am enjoying the little fire eruptions that flare up every time we hit someone with this thing. It may not be good for a whole lot besides looking cool, compared to our regular sword, but, well, it does look cool. It's also going to blow the shit out of these barrels if I happen to hit any of them. So it's never too late in the game to be cautious with these guys. Oh, easy there, Firebomber. There you are. And you? And Spear Guy, you're pretty pissed off, so I'm gonna let you come on over. In theory. You know what, I think I'd better break out my hammer. Little risk of blowing up the whole area that way. And here's what we were looking for. The final resting place of a fallen giant. Now, we were able to come here and examine them before, but it didn't really accomplish anything. I believe the game just says, unfortunately nothing happened, or something to that effect. But if we are to approach and examine while we have the Ashen Mist Heart in our possession... Bingo bango. Just like it happened in the Dragon Memories. This time we are transported into the memory of Vamar, which is presumably the name of a fallen giant, the one who died here and left his corpse in tree form. And just like Dragon Memories, we can only stay here for about 5 minutes, so we'll have to work quickly. And we will spend a chunk of that time having a chat with this gentleman.
What are you doing here? You are not one of our soldiers, and I don't take you for a mercenary. Whoever you are, this is no battle to involve yourself in. Whether you are guided by bravery or brashness, this is no place for you. I am Drummond, and the Lord has placed this fort in my hands. Whoever you are, I forgive your trespass, but leave this place immediately. Just mention my name, and no man will challenge your exit. And even if you don't, by now, my men have not the will to resist.
So, this is the legendary Captain Drummond, the one whose name we saw in the descriptions of the Drang Lake equipment.
Soon, the giants will descend upon this fort. It is revenge for the kingdom's misguided barbarism. The Venerable Lord built this kingdom to bring prosperity to his subjects. What has transformed him so, I cannot imagine. Long ago, the king crossed the seas, pillaged the land of giants, and brought back a prize. It was then that the golems materialized. The giants are no ordinary barbarians. A singular rage burns within their hearts. My father and his father both fought the giants on this very land. The giants have wills of steel. They cannot find it within themselves to forgive the misdeeds of our Lord. Did you see him? That towering monster among them. That is most certainly their king. He will be a thing to topple. Even if I should die trying. My blade may break, my arrows fall wide, but my will shall never be broken. Those who live by the sword will die by it, and I, Drummond, won't go down without drawing mine. Be gone with you. This fort will soon fall. Be gone. before the giants are entirely upon us.
Well, we now know when this memory is taking place. This is the time of the giants' counter-invasion that destroyed the fort that once existed where the Forest of Fallen Giants is in the present day. And we can also learn a gesture here. The last one, I believe. Hurrah! We'll check that out later.
Be gone with you. Be gone.
Anyway, our only real goal here is to acquire the soul of a giant. And there's some other loot, but most of it is non-unique loot, and we have to work quickly, so for the most part I'll be avoiding combat and just rushing for the end. Giants are not much fun to fight anyway. Hello there. Yeah, we're already starting to run out of time. I'm gonna have to haul ass if I want to get that soul before we run out of time here. No time for love, gentlemen. But if we do run out of time, then no major consequences to us. We'll just have to come back in and try again, this time without spending time talking to the captain. Oh, and that's exactly what we're going to have to do. Oh well. No big deal. We've already taken care of our business with the captain, and so, yeah, we have no need to spend most of our Ashen Mist time having a conversation with him again. But before we head back in, we can check out our new gesture. Hurrah! It's a lot like the joy gesture, except instead of doing multiple fist pumps with your left hand, it just does a single fist pump with your right hand, so that makes it kind of nice if you want to raise your weapon in triumph or salute. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it on my hotbar here. Anyway, let's head on back into the Memory of Vamar and see if we can't pull out some of the loot, maybe, if we have the time and can do it without getting killed. And as is our primary goal, we're going to want to retrieve that soul of a giant. Yep, no need to watch that little cutscene again. Giants, by the way, I do not believe they have very good fire defense, so this is actually a pretty respectable choice of weapon for this particular location. Oh, hey. Making an early appearance this time, are you? You know, I'm just gonna go. Same thing with you guys. I'm really not into this whole thing. There might be some loot in that courtyard there, but I think I'm just gonna pass. And here we have the giants having it out with some of Drangleic soldiers. And the soldiers and the giants will both be hostile to you given an opportunity, but I believe they will usually prioritize attacking each other. Oh shit. What can we get over here? Oh, the Giant Warrior Club, one of the few rare pieces of unique loot in the memories. We should be safe in here for a moment, get a heal up. And up this way, I believe, is the soul we seek. There's another of those double club bastards, but we should be able to run past him. All we gotta do is pick up our soul of a giant, and then if we re-examine the body, out we go. Now, there were probably some other things to find there, but as you can see, the giants do inflict quite a bit of punishment on you with each hit, and can break your guard very easily, being as strong as they are. And most of the other goodies would have just been things like consumables, maybe some weapon upgrade materials, things like that. As far as I can recall, the only unique piece of gear in that particular area was that Giant Warrior Club. which is going to be in our great hammers somewhere. There it is. Club of the Giants that besieged Drang Lake. Nothing more than a boulder bound to a tree, but a very powerful, if primitive, weapon. King Vendrick, in adherence to Queen Nishandra's counsel, led his armies north in an attempt to subjugate the Giants and claim their powerful souls for his own. You can see that even with our considerable strength, we don't have enough to wield that one-handed. 60 strength in the base game was the highest strength you would ever need to wield an item one-handed. The DLC actually introduces a new weapon, which requires 70 strength to wield one-handed, but hopefully we'll be able to pick that up later when we actually start in on the DLC. Now then, that is all we actually have to do here at the Memory of Vamar, so let's go ahead and proceed onward to the next of the optional Giant Souls. I'm just going to warp right on back to the bonfire, probably a little bit faster that way. Oh, and one minor bit of trivia about Captain Drummond. You may have heard of the very Souls-inspired game Lords of the Fallen. Very, very clearly inspired by the Souls games, Demon's Dark and what have you. The main character of Lords of the Fallen shares a voice actor with Captain Drummond, so there's yet another link between the series. Anywho, let's see. Which direction do I want to go? Our next optional giant memory is going to be in the area around where we fought the Pursuer. And I don't remember exactly where that is. Is it this way? No, I don't believe so. That's just another way to get back to where we were before. Oh, I think if we take our shortcut here, and then head out into the open sunsetty space, that's gonna put us where we need to be. Just gonna stop and give this guy a swat first, because why not? Yeah, I think this is the right spot. Whoa. Mind the spears. Well, once again, no enemy is too trivial to give you a hassle if you're not careful. Ah, yes, and you probably remember the pieces of the statue that you can find here and there. The statue hand holding the giant sword there. Keep that in mind as we proceed through the memories. We are, after all, through the memories, exploring pieces of the past of this fort. Oop. Careful there. And you probably all remember this route. This is just leading us back up to where we had the proper boss fight with the Pursuer, where it had a life bar and all that good stuff, and an intro cutscene. And if we proceed onward through the boss arena, and then in at the other end, that should lead us to our next fallen giant. Hey, and I'd recognize that blue sword anyway. Anywhere, rather. It's our buddy Bernard. Let's make sure the area is secure, and then we'll have a quick catch up with him. Hey, Bernard. It's been a while. Haven't seen you since the castle.
Well, we meet again. What are you doing here? Who'd have thought we'd meet in a place like this? Fate just won't let us do a part, will she? See, the old sword's caught your attention. Well, you've a good eye then. That has been in my family for generations. They say it is crafted with moonlight. And we all know what that means. It wards off evil. And I wouldn't trade her for all the riches in the world. It's said that no man has ever teased out the sword's true power. But in the right hands.
Well, gotta respect Benart's single-mindedness and just the simplicity of him. He's not a deep character, but he just wants to kick some ass and see if his sword's as awesome as he thinks it is. More power to him.
I see you've taken a light of it, if you still insist on having it. Then you will.
I think I accidentally skipped some of his dialogue there. Let's see if he'll repeat it.
Have a great debt to you, and I'll never forget it. I, Benhart, swear by my honor to aid you in your darkest hour, so no problem, pal.
Well, sorry about the dialogue skip there, folks. Just him saying that, you know, he appreciates that we like the sword, but he will never give it up and will have to pry it from his cold, dead hands. Keep that in mind, because if things go according to plan, he'll change his mind on that later. I also like the way that he says, you know, I'll aid you in your darkest hour. So no problem, pal. He is a charmer, he is. Anyway, enough of that. We've got another of our optional memories to investigate. And this time we have dug ourselves into the memory of a fallen giant named Oro. And Benard, what the fuck are you doing here? No, seriously, what the fuck is he doing here? This is never explained anywhere in the game, and I have no answer to it.
Oh, look at you, old friend. I see your travels way up on the yet. Just remember, I'm always ready to help.
Well, I appreciate it, dude, but seriously, what are you doing in a dead giant's memory?
My homeland is in the Far East, a kingdom of honourable fighting men. And this sword yet awaits a true man to wield it. I know how swords think, you see.
Well, he sure is hung up on that sword, but I can respect that. I have a cool glowing sword, too.
My homeland, and this I know.
Alright, let's see. Let's try the upstairs first. I think there's a little bit more unique loot in this area, but not too much. Once again, the main thing we're going to be concerned with is not getting killed by the king's soldiers, for one, who are a little tougher when they're not completely hollow. And then we'll have to get our giant soul and get out before we run out of time. I wanted the backstab there, but we'll take a chop down. That's not very exciting, but anything behind a Pharaoh's contraption should be a little more interesting. Now, one thing you don't want to do is mess with the other Pharaoh's contraption here, because all it is a blade trap. And we don't want to set off a blade trap. What good would that be? This chest here is also trapped, but we've dealt with chest traps before. Just gotta get out of the way before we get poisoned. And we get multiple hero souls, which is quite nice. I forget what we've got in here, but we'll find out. A fire seed, which is no longer of particular interest to us. And perhaps a little more interestingly, the steel set, which is the heavy armor worn by the Knights of Berenique in the original Dark Souls. I think that's all the really interesting equipment there is to be found in this memory, everything else just being consumables and upgrade items and things like that. So from here forward, we're just gonna hustle and try and make it through and get that giant soul before we run out of time. And yes, the giants have pyromancers. Yeah, probably should have tried to land on the awning there. And oddly enough, even happening in a memory, that does count as a proper death. We do drop our souls and get hollowed and go back to a bonfire, so please do excuse me, I'll have to work my way back to where we done snuffed it. Alright, Memory of Oro, take 2. And this time, since we won't be pausing to chat with Benart, then it'll give us a little more time, and we don't quite have to dash through at top speed and to the same degree we did before. And I'll try and recover my souls, but it won't be the end of the world if I don't manage it. Where does this lower pathway go? Ah, looks like it goes out to the same courtyard. But I think my soul pile is going to be upstairs. Excuse me, guys, I just don't have time for your nonsense. Let's see, where was the stairway? Ah, there it is. Yeah, I think the lower path, if I recall correctly, is the more straightforward path out of here. Oh, one of those giants really got reamed. I think he took a ballista shot. Oh, I almost took a ballista shot. No, then, let's see if we can get... Oh god, I did it all over again. Well, that was embarrassing. One moment, folks. Alright. Third time's a charm, right? And this time, just to be on the very safe side, I think I am going to go in sporting the cat ring. I'm going to try not to actually walk too far and plunge all the way to the ground again, but in the event that I do, perhaps the cat ring will be sufficient to save me. We can always hope. Up we go once again. Up we go. This time we turn around and immediately go up again. Bingo bango. Excuse me, gentlemen. I'm not here to play with you. Oh, still fell all the way down, but just very narrowly survived. And so we shall multi-chug. We shall... Oh! Try not to get mixed up in the battle with the giants here. We shall get knocked on our ass anyway. And we shall hustle with all possible velocity. And I don't think this is where I was supposed to go. Nope, because I just ran right back out to the entryway. Okay, fair enough. Well, this is the way I usually go, so hopefully coming at it from this direction I'll recognize what I should be... Oh, shit. Nope, excuse me. No time for this. No time for you either, Mr. Soldier. You got giants to deal with. And this is what I came for. Very good. I know I left some consumable souls lying around in the process there, some things like that, but I got my soul pile. And I got what I think is the only really unique piece of equipment there, that being the steel set, so we will call it a win. And we might as well look at that new piece of armor that we picked up. Just gotta find where it's hiding. There we go. Heavy steel armor. A relic of an order of knights said to be the mightiest warriors of their time. Yep, we know those guys, the Knights of Baronique. Had a few scuffles with them in our time. Right. That's 2 down, and we've added 2 more Souls of Giants to our collection, for a total of 3, counting the ones that we picked up in the Black Gulch, where we found 2 giant warriors surviving there. So that just leaves us with 1 more Memory of Giants that we need to dive ourselves into. And this is the one that is required to finish the game. As a matter of fact, once we complete this one, we would technically have nothing left to do but finish the game. The main game, anyway. However, we will of course have the DLC, which is probably going to take a little time, being the toughest part of Dark Souls 2. And we're also going to want to do those little challenge dungeons in the Dark Chasm of old. I'm not sure why we really need a King's Gate here, because it wouldn't be possible to get to this part without the Ashen Mist Heart anyway, but we do have a King's Gate here. Well, we know how to deal with those. Shouldn't need the cat ring, so I'm going to go ahead and put my... Well, actually, you know what? I'm not going to put the Chloranthy ring back on. We've got some souls that I would like to save, so we will put on life protection. And here we find a bonfire, which is going to be very convenient in case we die here. Because this particular giant memory is rather unique in that it comes with a boss fight. So if we do snuff it, we can just run right back in and take another crack at the boss, no big deal. Also, we will have summon opportunities as usual for a boss fight, so gotta make myself all fleshy again. And we'll have a nice rest, and we will launch ourselves into the fray. Sparkly. And our final and only vital giant memory is the memory of Jay. Now we have 2 summon signs here, one for Captain Drummond, and one for Benart. Man, he really finds his way around these giant memories. I'd like to grab Captain Drummond just because he's a unique summon here, but we still only have 2 boss fights with Benart, and this is going to give us an opportunity for one more, so I'm going to take him along. It's fairly difficult to have your allies survive this memory anyway. So if he doesn't make it, I won't be terribly shocked. Hey, Benart. Let's rock. Start out with a fog gate here, and we encounter a particularly violent battle. Lots of giants, lots of soldiers, and lots of flaming catapult ammunition. So it's fairly easy to get your ass blasted here. You want to be careful with that. Oh, and mind the statue head. And right up ahead, will you look at that. Now most of the giants you've probably noticed are fairly squat and very broadly built, but their king here is more of a tall, lanky sort. Remind you of anyone? Remind you of someone from very deep in our past? Oh! Remind you of me getting slaughtered at the hands of a really fucking big sword? Yep, you will no doubt recall that Captain Drummond mentioned that the giants had brought along their king in the counter-invasion, and, well, that was him. And he is a pretty tough nut to crack. He's quite slow. He only has a few very slow sword swipes and his stomp attacks. The problem is he's so damn tall that you can't really see what he's doing all the time. And if you lock onto him, it really screws up the camera, so I really prefer to do that fight without lock on. But that means you're going to turn your back to him from time to time, which is not a particularly good thing. Also, Benart never actually joined that fight. I wonder if he got stuck behind the statue head.
I'll be around.
Now let's see, how many souls would it take me to gain a level at this point? 22. If we use some of those consumables, I think we might be able to make it. Oh yeah.
There until...
So what I'm gonna do here is give myself a point of vitality, because I'd like to get to a point where we can carry all our usual stuff without having to worry about wearing the Royal Soldier's Ring. Yeah, we'll give ourselves 2 points of that. So that way we should be alright for ditching the life protection ring. And we still can't quite ditch the Royal Soldier's Ring. But we're getting there. Alright, let me warp myself right on back to the new bonfire that we just opened up in the Forest of Fallen Giants, that being the Place Unbeknownst. And we'll give that another go. And hopefully this time Benart will actually make it to the battle. Alright, Mr. Ujugo, you saw nothing. I should really make more of an effort to avoid getting hit by that first flaming catapult shot at the beginning. Hi, Mr. Giant Lord. That first vertical chop of his, I should note, is unblockable, so don't try to block it. His more horizontally oriented swipes, on the other hand, you can block those, no problem. Of course, you can just barely block them. They will take off a hell of a lot of your stamina. I should note it is possible to poison the Giant Lord, but I'm just sticking to my big fiery weapon for the time being. Also, a fairly solid way to fight him is to get up on that elevated platform off on the side, because then you can dodge his sword strikes fairly simply and fill him full of arrows. But I think cheesing this guy with arrows just isn't the way I want to do this fight. It's just a little too cheesy. And you do have to be careful. He does like to swing that sword behind him when you've got his back. And of course you want to have a care about those big old stomps of his. But the stomps are actually a pretty good thing for him to do, because they're easier to avoid in my estimation than his sword attacks, and they don't hurt as much either. And down he goes. So long, Giant Lord. And so long, Benart. Well, that probably used up most of our time, but we'll do a quick little bit of looting here. There aren't any giants immediately threatening us. And get an... Oh! Of course, we're still threatened by the bombardment. Any other goodies over here? Doesn't look that way. Alright, so I believe on that upper platform there's something to grab. Up here is where I was saying you can shoot the Giant Lord pretty well from. Ranged combat actually works quite nicely against him, especially if you've got poison arrows. But he's also quite weak to fire, so doing it the way I did it works pretty damn well too. Does kind of look like where that Hollow Woman merchant hung out in the Aqueduct in Dark Souls 1. More importantly, another giant soul. Also, you will no doubt notice that my current soul collection is very, very nice indeed. The Giant Lord is one of the best sources for regular soul farming in the game if you have lots of bonfire ascetics. You have a handy bonfire here. Tossing ascetics into it will reset the memory, so you can just keep farming the Giant Lord over and over and get lots and lots of souls. But I am not terribly inclined to do that. Let's make a quick run back to Majula, because I believe now that we have acquired the Giant's kinship, we have a little new cat chat. And we'll also want to look at that, as well as the soul that we just acquired. First off, the Giant's kinship. Each king has his rightful throne, and when he sits upon it, he sees what he chooses to see. Or perhaps it is the throne, which shows the king only what he wants. The flames roar, but will soon begin to fade, and only a worthy heir might burnish their light. What is it, truly, a claimant of the throne could desire? What indeed? And what exactly the Giant's kinship is a subject of some debate among the lore analysts of the Souls community. I mean, just looking at the item icon, it looks like they're sacred purple donut. But I've had some conversations about this with the estimable Mr. Justin Carpenter, and we've actually done a lot of talking about the lore of Dark Souls 2. And when all is said and done, and we've seen everything there is to see in the game, I plan to do an omake in which I share some of those conversations with you. I hope you'll find them interesting when the time comes. For now, well, I guess feel free to make your own guesses about what exactly the giant's kinship might be. The important thing to know is, having the giant's kinship is what lets you take on the final boss. Otherwise, if you just go down to the basement of Drangleic Castle, and through the King's Gate there, as I talked about before, you can fight the penultimate boss, but the final boss will not challenge you afterward until you have the giant's kinship in your possession. So that is exactly why fighting the Giant Lord in the memory of Jay is a requirement. And speaking of the Giant Lord, let's have a look at this. Soul of the Giant Lord, who once conquered Drangleic. Vendrick crossed the seas, took prisoner the giants, and brought them back to his castle clapped in irons. However, after this modest triumph, his countenance could be seen to grow darker with each passing day. Giants brought back clapped in irons. And the curious proportions of the Giant Lord. That tall, lanky quality to him. Yeah, that was the last giant. The Giant Lord and the very first boss we fought, completely one and the same. You remember how his soul said that an unknown hero had brought him down? That was us. So apparently what you do in the memories can change the current day world. And that also explains why the last giant was so monstrously pissed at us when we entered his boss arena. He just roared at us and even ripped off his own arm to try to kill us. We're the ones who brought him low and got him impaled and imprisoned beneath the fort. Anyway, cat chat.
It seems that we must now part. Why now? I don't see how it should matter. Just because I'm a cat?
Oh, I like you too, Shalquar. And we won't be parting quite so soon. Again, if this were just the base game, the very last thing we'd have to do is go back to the castle and have the final fights. But we've still got 3 sections of DLC to do, as well as the Dark Chasm of Old, so it won't be ending quite so quick. And there's another couple of things we can do even before we move on to that, first of which is heading back to Strayed. Ornifex cannot do anything with the soul of the Giant Lord, so that's gonna be a trade for the Strayed.
Well, this is a most charming soul. Very good indeed. My power is yours. Let it serve your desire.
Yeah, the Giant Lord was a pretty charming guy. And there's only one option we can do for a trade for his soul, that being the Repel Hex, which you can see has some pretty hefty intelligence and faith requirements, so it's not something we'll be using. It also requires a rather hefty 3 attunement slots. A hex that distorts local space. For a brief moment, no damage can be inflicted. The Hexer Gilead took no apprentice, and it is unclear how his spells were passed down. It is even possible that hexes originated from another source altogether. So, when you cast this hex, it lasts for about 2 seconds, and for those 2 seconds you are completely invincible. If you get hit with an attack that causes knockdown, you'll still get knocked down, but you will take no damage from anything. I don't think too many people have found a whole lot of use for this, but if you have excellent timing and there are attacks that you would rather just tank than avoid, I guess you could just use those 2 seconds of invincibility to take pretty much anything on the chin and come away without a scratch. We, however, are going to take it just for collection purposes.
Feeble curse.
Yeah, feeble. I single-handedly, well no, not single-handedly, but with the help of Bernard of Jugo, brought down the Giant King, but yeah, I'm feeble. Speaking of Benart, he did narrowly survive that one, which means we should now have 3 boss fights with him under our belt. And that means, if we go back to the memory that he likes to hang out in, I think we can complete his quest line. And let's see, that was the one in the Pursuers area. So I'll rejoin you in a moment as soon as I get there. Alright, I do beg your pardon, Oro. We're gonna have to poke into your brain one more time.
We have outwitted death a good many times. My dear friend, take these. My homeland is, and this I know about.
So, for that, we get Benart's full set of armor, his shield, and that sword of his. Which he still has, somehow. Very peculiar. But in any case, that whole bit of business about never letting his sword go and we'd have to pry it from his cold dead hands, well, I guess that didn't quite stick. And we have a couple of merchants who would actually comment on the sword now that we have it. You may recall that... oh, what is his name? Why am I blanking on his name? The armorer guy over here. Malin! Malin is his name. Malin mentioned that he was very interested in that sword and would like to buy it, so let's see what he has to say about it now.
You need armor? I'm rich! I don't need home. Home. Are you sure?
I thought he commented on it. Maybe I have to be holding it. Let's give that a try.
Looking for armor? Everything... home.
Well, isn't that peculiar?
Are you sure?
I could have sworn he had something to say about the sword. Oh well. I'll have to look into that, see if I'm missing something, or if I just completely misremembered. In the meantime, the other person who I believe should comment on it, now that I'm questioning myself, is Magarold. So let's make our way back to the Iron Keep, and we'll see if that works out any better. Alright then. First, let's have a look at the Blue Moon Greatsword. The blade of this greatsword shines like the brilliant rays of the moon. In the oldest legends, rarely spoken of today, it is said that the sword was born of a great white being. Then, what explains this lifeless weapon? Perhaps there has been some mistake. Yes, the Blue Moon Greatsword is apparently sometimes mistaken for the Moonlight Greatsword that we got for cutting off the tail of Seath in Dark Souls 1. That doesn't mean that the Moonlight Greatsword has been lost, but we'll have to pursue that particular artifact a little later. In the meantime, let me re-equip my Smelter Sword, and then we'll take a look at Benart's Parma. This Parma, emblazoned with a family crest of some sort, has clearly been around for several generations, but has no special value. Alright, what about his headgear? There we are. Apparently, Benart found this while wandering land to land, but its origins are unknown. He wore it all the time. He adored it so. leaving a slight odor. Bernard is kind of a hairy guy, probably doesn't spend a whole lot of time doing his daily ablutions, I suppose. And same description for his armor. Alright then. Now our last order of business for the day... Well, actually no. Scratch that, I'd want to get some levels.
Bearer of until
I'm going to creep up my adaptability a bit more, and then let's put some more into vitality, because I'd really like to decouple myself a little bit more from that, whatchamacallit, from that Royal Soldier's Ring of ours. We'll see if this is finally enough. Marvelous. That does put us at over 69%, but as long as we keep it below 70%, doesn't matter how much, then we can continue to do our decent speed roll and not be stuck with fat roll country. And we can even put on a Ring of Blades +1 for a little more attack punch, and we're still just barely under the weight limit. Happy day. Now then, as I started to say before I remembered I wanted to do that, we now have as many giant souls as we can get in this game cycle. It's only possible to get 4 in any particular round of new game. I do not believe they can be reset with bonfire ascetics, and to get the 5th, we would have to kill the ancient dragon, which, as per last episode, I am disinclined to do. Now, it takes 5 giant souls to reduce Vendrick's defense to a normal level. It starts out with him having 32 times his normal defense, which is why he's practically impossible to even scratch. And with each giant soul you have in your inventory, that is cut in half. So it gets cut to 16, then 8, then 4, then 2. And so if we had that extra giant soul, we would have him at his normal defense value. But since we have 1 giant soul too few, he will just have double defense. But that, while suboptimal, is something we can manage. So how about we finally put His Majesty to rest? If we head to the Undead Crypt and use the Undead Ditch bonfire, then we should be able to cross the bridge shortcut that we opened up and get back to the place where he hollowed fairly quickly. Oh, what's this? Cool. A little extra goods for us. Now let's see if I can remember which way I actually need to leave this place. I think this is the path. Yeah, this is the way. Alright then, let's see if we can avoid this bell going off for a change. Nope. And if memory serves, there's gonna be one more hollow trying for it. Oh, you. And like a complete dumbass, I rang the bell myself. Alright, well, do bear with me for a moment while I deal with the lady guys here real quick. Alrighty. Oh, yes, and as someone had pointed out in the comments, there is one more insolent knight hidden over in the corner here that we never actually fought. He doesn't aggro if you run straight down the middle, so it is possible to completely miss him, as in fact I did. Well, not this time. Oh, and we got a magic shield for our trouble. I don't think we had one of those before. Yeah, there we go. Small shield used by Ladia Apostles, imbued with a special magic that allows spells to be deflected by parrying. The Ladia Apostles were inhabitants of the undead crypt, but failed to treat death with the proper respect. As punishment, they were denied peaceful deaths. Oh, so I guess they hung out here just like the Gravekeepers. And as you can see, the magic shield has excellent magic defense, but not very good physical defense or stability. And it can also be used for spell parrying. Oh, bonus. Alright. Well, Vendrick, I think you kind of made the wrong call listening to the Queen's advice and going and invading the Giants. I mean, I'm sure you had your reasons, and I know it could be difficult to turn down the Queen's advice. But in the end, you did everything you did for your kingdom, and I can respect that. By most accounts, you were a hell of a guy, and I think you deserve a better fate than just wandering around your crypt for all eternity. So, I'll try and make this quick, old buddy. Alright, the boss fight has begun in earnest. Vendrick is very strong, and of course with a sword that size he's going to have plenty of range, but he is also very slow and rather clumsy. But getting hit by him, if you take it on the shield, will either break your guard or close to it, even with a shield this chunky. And getting hit full on by that sword of his, well, if it doesn't one-shot you, it'll probably be close to it. But as you can see, everything he does is very sluggish and very telegraphed, so just by circling him and hugging his leg, you can avoid most of his attacks pretty readily. Even his multi-hit combos come so slowly that you can just pretty readily sidestep them. And in the event I get hit by some backswing or something, I should be able to take one hit on the shield. He also does have a projectile attack of dark magic if you get too far away from him, but that's not a good place to be anyway. Oh, yeah, it took off about half my stamina, and I've got the beefiest shield possible. Anyway, his fire defense is better than the Giant Lord's, I believe, but it's still not one of his better defenses, so this is a pretty respectable weapon for taking him on. When he jumps back out of range, I like to make him follow me a little bit so he gets away from the wall, because when he's got his back to the wall and you can't really follow him, or circle around him, that's a dangerous place to be. Oop. Caught a little bit of the swing there, but all we gotta do is let that stamina regenerate and get behind him again. Really, although the risk is very high if you do take a hit unprotected, this feels like less of a true boss fight and more just one final courtesy to the old king. And because his defense is doubled, it is still quite good. But I think having 4 giant souls is about the least you can have and reasonably expect to do this boss fight. If you have only 3, he's going to have 4 times defense, and then it's just going to take forever to take him down. And if he has 800% defense or more, then just forget about it. If you're incredibly patient, I mean, it's perfectly possible, because as you can see, avoiding damage here is not terribly difficult, but I wouldn't want to do it. And again, the damage risk is quite high. If you get careless and do take hits from him, well, you're gonna die pretty damn quick. Even as a big old zombie, he's a very, very strong guy. Oh, and for defense and weapon property purposes, he does count as a standard hollow. So if you have the old whip, which does additional damage to hollows, or I believe there's an attack miracle which does extra damage to hollows, they will do extra damage to Vendrick. Well, we got him more than halfway down, and nothing changes about him. Doesn't have any additional forms or break out any new moves. So from here, as long as I don't do anything monstrously stupid, it should be all over but the morning. I'm gonna let him get a little bit away from that wall. Want him to follow me, but I don't want him to start chucking dark magic at me. I mean, Havel's Great Shield does have pretty decent dark defense, but still, he's very strong even with his spellcasting. Whew, broke my guard there. And broke it again. Still gotta treat the old king with respect, even when things are almost over. I speak from experience there. The first time I ever tried to fight him, I got him down to just a sliver of health. Then I got careless, tried to go for a big finish, and he one-shot me with a big fat overhand. Much like that one. Rest well, Your Majesty. Now you will notice that although we got a pretty good pile of souls in our inventory for that, well, we didn't actually get a boss soul. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have a great soul of his own. No, Vendrick did have a wondrous soul, but for whatever reason, it's not here. What could that mean? And where could it have gone? Well, friends, I think that's a mystery that's going to have to wait until next time. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. It has been a pleasure having you along. And I hope those of you celebrating it will have an excellent Thanksgiving. Hope that all your family interactions will be painless, and that all you good working folk can avoid the Black Friday chaos if possible. If you can't avoid it, I hope you get through with all of your limbs intact. So take care, folks. Happy Thanksgiving. And next time, we will explore what's become of the soul of Vendrick, and I think we'll be starting the DLC. Until then, it has been a pleasure, and I'll see you after the holiday. On this festive day of impending gluttony, I would like to give thanks for the very generous patronage of Justin Carpenter, Nolden, Zangamarth, Charlie Dunst, Anonymous Benefactor, John Madigan, Johnny Millennium, Sanguine Games, Misha Van Doren, Craig Patterson, Frank Grizzy, Tim J., Lolo De Puzzlo, Joshua C. Ritchie, Jared C. Rice, Darren Chow, Sonic Rose, EX Potemkin, Alicia Goranson, Argyle Jelly, Mechasaurus, DG Jono, Doug Russell, and August Fortnite, and all my other wonderful contributors. I am also very thankful for all commenters, subscribers, and watchers. Thank you all very much, and once again, have a very happy Thanksgiving.